Hey everybody, welcome to the H channel. Today we're going to talk about 5 tips how to not be boring. Almost all of us have had the experience of being in a conversation where no matter how hard we try, our thoughts keep wandering away from the person in front of us. Nothing ignites the spark of an engaging discussion. It's just boring. What exactly makes someone boring? Boring is a broad, amorphous concept, unlike a discrete trait, such as the Big Five: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Boredom presents a challenge to researchers aiming to reliably measure and examine the concept. But perceiving someone as boring stems from our capacity for attention. We evolved to focus on interesting because that evolved food, mates, and predators, says personality psychologist Mark Leary, a professor emeritus at Duke University. If something isn't interesting, it's probably not worth our while. Our biology tells us to get up and do something more important. Larry and his colleagues have defined boredom as the effective consequence of effortful maintenance of attention to a particular stimulus event. If ironically that definition put you to sleep, boredom means that you have to force yourself to pay attention. Most people, of course, aren't dreadfully boring, but it still pays to tune out our small talk from time to time. Number 1. Curb your complaints. Back in the 1980s, Larry conducted one of the few studies to explore exactly what people perceive as a boring personality. The item that topped the list was continually complaining about your problems, or negative egocentrism in psychology parlance. Everyone needs to let off steam occasionally, but be sensitive to the situation. Close friends would understand if you needed to confide in them about a challenge. But your airplane seatmate might find you incredibly down after 20 minutes of ranting about your evil boss. The decision to complain also pertains to your goals. When struggling emotionally, your primary goal may be to feel better, in which case airing your grievances could be the solution. But if the goal is to build connection at the networking event, complaining could make the interaction tedious for the new contact. You can't achieve all of the goals at once. If your goal is to feel better rather than to stimulate an interaction you would enjoy, there's nothing wrong with that, Larry says. But do it intentionally rather than obliviously to avoid distancing other people. Number 2. Ask follow-up questions. One of the most common complaints people have after a conversation is that the other person didn't ask enough questions, says Alison Wood Brooks, an associate professor at Harvard Business School. People love talking about themselves and feel good when others show interest. So why do we shy away from asking questions? Our understanding of question asking may be broken. Brooks says, many people feel that by asking the question they will come across as nosy or rude, especially on more sensitive topics. We overestimate how intrusive our question would be, Brooks says. If people enjoy being asked questions, they love being asked follow-up questions. Brooks and colleagues have measured the influence of follow-up questions in a host of different settings to determine that those who ask follow-up questions are often better liked. One study, published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in 2017, followed speed daters and found that asking just one more follow-up questions in each meeting led to an additional date. People even like chatbots better if they ask more follow-up questions. It really seems as if follow-up questions have a special magic to them, Brooks says. To ask good follow-up questions, just listen closely and be curious. Avoid peppering someone with surface-level questions. Where are you from? What do you do? Instead, after the first question, where are you from? Probe the answer to learn more. Did you like growing up there? What was that like? Is this behavioral demonstration that you're listening to them and want to know more? Brooks says, that's how everyone wants to feel. Number 3. Change the topic. Hopping to the new topic more quickly than you might think polite can prevent a subject from going stale. Brooks and her colleagues instructed study participants to talk naturally or to switch topic more frequently than they normally would when the conversation lulled. The data from the forthcoming report showed that people learned to shift topics easily and that they responded to cues of lost interest, like periods of mutual silence, more quickly. Most important, both individuals enjoy the conversation more. People may linger on topics for longer than necessary to be polite. Brooks says, they don't want to offend the person who brought up the topic or come across as rude or abrupt. But people often feel a sense of relief when someone proposes a new topic, especially if the conversation has stagnated. Shifting topics more quickly also doesn't seem to replace depth with breadth, because the number of follow-up questions asked in both conditions was comparable. When the topic stalls, speakers don't ask more proving questions. They start to repeat themselves instead, Brooks says. There's a misconception that staying on the topic for a long time leads to greater depth. But we find that it's not true, Brooks says. You squeeze out all the good stuff pretty quickly. This mirrors the experience of clinical psychologist Barbara Greenberg. When patients struggle to make or sustain relationships, one of the tips she provides is to look for hints that a topic is played out. Like if listeners look away, be quiet, or glance at their phones. Pay attention and people will give you clear cues, Greenberg says. Number 4. Convey interest with body language. Another nail in a coffin is a flat or muted response. When the person you are speaking with doesn't react to you, either positively or negatively, it conveys that they're not interested in the conversation, Leary says. This response can make it hard for you to pay attention as well. Some people may not be naturally effusive, or they may have been raised in an environment that discourages emotional reactions. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you feel nervous about sustaining a conversation or making a good impression, you can proactively nod, smile, and maintain eye contact so that the other person feels acknowledged and engaged. That also means setting aside distraction to be fully present. Put your phone away and look at the person, Greenberg says. That sounds so basic, but it's not anymore. Number 5. Demonstrate a sense of humor. Laughter can make any conversation more delightful. Humor can also accomplish sneaky and valuable feats. Not only does it make conversation more fun, but it can also help us cope with difficult experiences, deflect uncomfortable questions, and boost group cohesion, Brooks says. Humor even indicates one's position in a social hierarchy. Funny people are seen as higher status than people who don't crack jokes, according to the 2016 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. So if you're naturally funny, don't be afraid to let your sense of humor shine. But what about situations where humor is risky, like professional settings? And what about those of us who don't view ourselves as comedians? Well, when people appreciate good humor by laughing at or encouraging others' jokes, they're still perceived as warm and engaging. Imagine a 2x2 grid, Brooks explains. One axis represents being funny or not. The other axis represents whether you appreciate humor or not. You just don't want to be in a no-no quadrant, Brooks says. You'll be a wet blanket. That's all for the sharing today. If you like this video, please consider to smash the subscribe button and turn on all the notifications so that you're not gonna miss out any video just like this from this channel. And most importantly, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. I would love to read and reply to your comments, and I hope to see you in the next video.